farcical, so unpredictable, here on SNL Stats.
Yes, that is right. We are back. SNL Stats in the house for another weekly roundtable covering everything from the Regina King episode this past weekend. I am so excited to break it all down with an incredible panel that we have this week. Joining us is the senior TV editor of Collider. Give it up for Liz Shannon Miller. Liz, how are you?
Doing great. Love the new theme song. That's amazing.
It's a fan favorite. We're happy to have you back, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts. You always have great opinions. Everything going well in your life?
Yeah. It's kind of, I'm in Los Angeles, and it's kind of gray and cloudy, and that's a lovely change of pace.
Okay. All right. Something different. Joining us once again is Bill Kenney. He is an SNL superfan and has a 34-year streak of never missing an episode, and we always love hearing what Bill has to say. Bill, how are you?
I'm doing well, John. Thanks for having me back.
My pleasure. We were just talking pre-show. We're getting close to minor league baseball season. It's inching a little bit closer, so I'm sure you're very excited about that.
I definitely am. Any kind of baseball would be great right about now. So
yeah, well, after the Super Bowl, you know that we're getting closer to it. So
yes,
it's always exciting. And joining us, we missed him on our last Superfan takeover. I'm so excited to have him back on the podcast with us. It is Andrew Haynes, known very well for his SNL at Home on the Live from New York subreddit. Andrew Haynes, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I think there's a lot to talk about in this episode, so I'm really excited to chat with you guys.
Yeah, definitely. And this is the thing. I found personally that the Krasinski episode, the Dan Levy episode, and now this episode are extremely polarizing episodes, more so than any of the ones we saw in the fall. Because in the fall, what I was seeing was, oh, this episode kind of sucked, or this episode was really good. And I've seen, it's really crazy, over the last 3 episodes, such variety of opinions about everything that has happened. And I'm not really sure why. And I really want to get to the bottom of that with you guys tonight. But starting off, I always like to, talk a little bit about the state of SNL. So Liz, let me start with you. It's our first time we're hearing from you in 2021. Can you tell me, how have you been feeling about these first 3 episodes and where SNL is at as a whole?
I mean, I think it's been interesting. I mean, I think when I was on in the fall, I think I talked a little bit about how I was really interested to see how the show would approach a Biden presidency, and especially the idea of it not using Biden, like it trying to find jokes and material outside of the Biden sphere. And I think I will say that the first 3 episodes have done that. They've tackled, there've been, admittedly, there's been plenty of other stuff politically to talk about, thanks to the impeachment trial and thanks to that little thing where they tried to, overthrow the government on January 6th. So, I don't know. It's been, I think on that level, I think the show's been really interesting to follow, and it continues to be a fascinating way of looking at our culture. I don't feel like I've noticed any just beyond the fact that they haven't really dug into the Biden of it all as much as you might have expected in these first 3 episodes. I do think that it is continuing kind of to have a very similar pace to where it was before.
Yeah, that's very true. It has been one of the main themes that we've been talking about. We finished off with that last episode in 2020 where we saw Moffat for the first time as Biden, and we totally expected to see him play him again now. And now I'm starting to think, or I'm getting at least messages from people being like, are we ever going to see Moffat play Biden again? And I'm sure we will. But it was interesting, Bill, that we had, our first political cold open probably, of the year so far. How have you felt about 2021 SNL so far?
Well, the last time we did a Superfan episode, we did Time Machine. And I feel like we've gotten in a time machine the last 3 episodes. It feels like 2014. We have the shorter cold opens. Not a lot of political stuff. I like the political stuff, but as polarizing as it's become, it's nice to have just the normal SNL complaints. The sketch is too long. The sketch doesn't have an ending. Why isn't this person in a sketch? So it's been nice to see more of that and less of, the acrimony that was overtaking the show for 5 years.
Yeah, it's such a good point. And Haynes, I want to get your opinion on it, is that, so many times we're complaining about what's happening outside in the world. And, it's nice that, the world is a little bit crazy, obviously, right now still. But, it's nice a little bit that we can complain about other aspects of SNL besides, the way they're handling the world being on fire.
It is. And I'll say this. It feels to me like the minute we stepped into 2021, the second half of the season starting, this show has taken a hard left turn away from cameos and the way things used to be for so long. It almost just makes you want to shout my Twitter handle. SNL has a cast, and we get to see all of them. It's been amazing. I'm really looking forward to touching on that, and all the young stars that we're getting to see bud right now. So I love what's been happening the last few episodes.
Yeah, definitely. And before we get into Saturday's episode and talking about, the cold open and the specific sketches, one of the themes that I think is very pertinent to discuss 3 episodes in is the fact that we do have all 20 cast members there. And, this is the second episode out of 3 that has featured literally all 20 cast members in different sketches. And personally, I do feel like the show is being negatively impacted by having so many cast members. I know it's been a discussion that we've had on many podcasts this year, but I feel like the return of Cecily and 80, like Bill said, it does feel a lot like 2014. And I do worry that, we're in a little bit of a status hold until we get to the end of the year and lose some of these people, where we're not going to get the high quality material we should be getting. But Liz, I really want to get your opinion, because I know that you mentioned you were a big fan of some of these cast members who weren't there in the fall. So how do you feel like their return has affected the show?
I mean, I feel like of all the issues I might have with SNL, but like as far, while 20 cast members does feel like way too many cast members, I do feel like in this episode, there was a nice spread of them being used. There was a lot of spotlight moments for all of them. I'm interested in the question, in the answer to the question of like, why is it bad to have too many cast members? Like, because beyond the idea that some of them don't get the spotlight that they deserve. I'm wondering about the real drawbacks of it. Like, is it really just the fact that some people are underserved? I think that, I'm not really doing a good job of answering your question, but I feel like the basic fact is, I don't mind having the extra cast members, and it is really great to see someone like Cecily or 80 back, and 80 especially. Like, I think she really has thrown herself into some really funny moments. I nearly died during the cold open last week, where she was playing the 2 different coaches. Like, that was a amazing little bit that totally worked. It was probably the only bit of that cold open that actually really worked well, but it was genuinely hilarious.
Yeah. Bill, let me get your opinion on that. So what would you say is the drawback of having so many cast members right now?
I think it is split evenly, as Liz alluded to, and that's nice, because ask somebody like Jay Moore or Chris Rock, who would go whole episodes without ever appearing. We're getting everybody in at least 2 or 3 episodes, 2 out of the last 3, and I think that's good. But I think that we're losing some of the momentum that Chloe had and that Heidi had, and like to see them blossom and start to see. I'm excited to see Cecily and 80 back as well. But I feel like at some point we're going to have to pare this down to something more reasonable, just to get those people in more sketches.
Yeah, I think I agree. And Andrew, I want to get your opinion. I think it's similar to, at the end of the Kristen Wiig era, when Kate McKinnon comes on and, she does this Sofia Vergara impression, and everyone just suddenly like falls in love with Kate and says, who is this new girl? We have to see more from her. And everybody gets excited. And I think that's kind of what happened the last few years with Heidi Gardner and then Chloe Fineman and Ego and these new women who have joined the cast. And they're like, oh, wow, they've done such great work. We just want to see more from them. And then there, comes a time where we just don't see it, and it gets frustrating, I think, for some of the audience. And we have nothing else to blame, but there just being so many cast members. So Haynes, let me get your 2 cents on it all.
Well, something that jumped out to me, after this episode, was I was going, man, when was I really haven't seen much of Chloe lately, and I didn't rewatch the Dan Levy episode today or anything, but I don't remember her standing out a ton in that episode either. So yeah, that's a drawback of the situation. And I've heard people I think on this podcast as well online, say that they weren't that excited about Aidy and Cecily coming back. Well, I am. So it sounds like I agree with at least a few people on the panel here tonight. I love Cecily and Aidy. I think Cecily puts so much into her characters, and there's a million reasons to love Aidy. But this debate about the size of the cast, has been going on all season, and I'm not as polarized by it as some folks. I mainly hear complaints. People say, it's so big. Well, people don't get a lot of time on screen. Sure. But to me, it's kind of a neutral. If it was only 7 cast members, which I would love, I know Bill likes that kind of thing, where you get to see the same folks over and over again, and they get to explore different characters. We see their range. That's amazing. And you fall in love with every cast member. But, this is an incredible opportunity for 20 people instead of 10, and you're putting these people on the biggest comedic platform in probably Western culture, at least in the United States and probably Canada. And, we get to see a lot of great talent. So I'm not that worried about the size of the cast. I think we just have to, take it for what it is.
Yeah, for sure. And to answer your question, Chloe was not in the episode last week. So, that's why you don't remember seeing her. Right. And, I think what I saw online from this Regina King episode, there were a lot of people who were like, this is, classic SNL. There's some good, some bad, but really, it just felt like everything we've seen the last few years. And I think that's just been like, the comment of that I've seen so far in 2021, which I think is unfortunate, because I think that whether it's good or bad SNL has so much history to it. And that's why we love talking about the show, that even if you don't get the best quality episode, there's material here that's going to be remembered for years and years to come. So that's why we're doing this podcast, and that's why we're talking about it. Now let's dive in a little bit more into this Regina King episode. And I want to hear your opinions about everything, but let's start with the cold open and our current events section. And like I said, first cold open of the year to get something political. We kind of knew with this impeachment trial we would get something. It was an interesting choice for SNL basically to put Alex in the host role, and they have been giving him some more screen time to start the year, which is really great to see. And then you have like a few different segments of the impeachment. So Liz, let me get your opinion. How do you feel about how SNL opened up this episode?
I thought that the cold open, it's like a lot of political ones. It was, very, very slapdash, and a lot of it depended on who was opposite the host, and what the caliber of jokes were. It kind of fell flat for me, and I think a large part of it had to do with the fact that there is so much crazy stuff you can talk about in regards to what happened over the last week and politically, and it felt like so much of the cold open was wasted on Tucker Carlson jokes, and like Tucker Carlson is already enough of a joke on his own. Like we don't need to lean so hard into making fun of his reactions to things and so forth. Like there was way too much lantern hanging on what was not a great impression from Alex Moffat. Like it was a fine impression, but like it was just like it could have been really like if you hadn't had those specific jokes about like I'm going to make a pouty baby face and stuff like that. I'm paraphrasing wildly here. But like, if you hadn't had those jokes, he would have just been generic Fox News host, and you didn't need it.
Yeah. Bill, I just find that this whole thing that SNL does in this era, which is basically they explain the joke before they do the joke,
Yes.
You would never see that in the the Armisen hater wig era. Like that would never happen. Like you would just have the person playing Tucker Carlson make weird faces, and then we would get this as an impression of Tucker Carlson. Why does Alex have to say, now I'm going to do this weird face? I don't get it.
They're dumbing down to the audience, and it's so sad. And we saw part of this in the cold open as well, with the obvious jokes with Trump's lawyers coming out and basically paraphrasing what they said and adding on to it and making it a little bit more funny. But this was the problem they had in the fall with just, oh, this is what they said word for word. Isn't that hilarious? Like we need something a little bit more original. So I think starting from Tucker, although I think that Alex did a great job as far as the impersonation, I don't think that, like you said, it's just too much banging your head against the floor. Why are they explaining every single detail to us?
Yeah. Haynes, what was your opinion on it? And do you have any recommendations about, where SNL could have gone with this impeachment trial stuff?
Well, I don't have any recommendations off the top of my head. But I will say one of the first things I thought was that I really liked the Tucker Carlson impression. And it kind of surprised me that it was only the second time he'd done it. It feels like natural for him, felt like something we'd seen before. As far as him saying, all right, now I'm going to do a puppy dog face or whatever it was. And that, well, that's on the writers. That's not on Alex. And as far as dumbing it down, let's be careful here, Bill. We are the biggest audience. we're the people that are like obsessed with the show. So yeah, maybe they are dumbing it down for us. But no, I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed the cold open. I loved A.D. Bryant's cheek implants for Ted Cruz. I mean, we always get to see the big nasty jowl implants for Kate when she does Graham. But yeah, A.D. was very funny. And I liked the whole thing. I thought they got to use a lot of different cast members. And we didn't waste too much time on any one of them. And I think Beck Bennett's McConnell is one of the best impressions we have on the show, one of the best recurring impressions. So overall, I've been as tired of political cold opens as anyone, but I really liked this one. I thought it was pretty good.
I will say that if A.D. Bryant wants to keep playing Ted Cruz, I will 100% support that idea.
Yeah.
That was a solid bit. She looked great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there was a couple things that, I didn't love the cold open, but there was a couple things that I thought were good. I thought Lindsey Graham bringing up, Free Britney, I thought that was funny. He didn't attempt coup, he is coup. I thought there was, some cute things in there. The clip with the Star Wars and Minions, them doing the fight stuff. There was a lot there. It was similar to last week with the Super Bowl commercials, where I just felt like there were things that were there. The ingredients were there to bake the cake. And, I just don't know if they fully, got the recipe right. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, go ahead.
I will say, I think there's one thing that really missed for me, which was when Pete was playing, Vander Veen, Dutch for Man of the Penis. The Philly accent. He took to such an extreme. It's almost like they wrote it phonetically for him on the cards, and he took it so far that it didn't sound like a Philly accent. A minute, I had to go, why was he saying Uber and Uber? I don't know what that means. And then a second later, I was going, oh, he's trying to do a Philly accent. Sure, I've got family from Philly. I'll make fun of that accent all day. But it went so far that I almost didn't recognize it. So that was something that could have hit a little bit harder. But that was my one drawback on that.
Yeah, definitely. And just for the stats stuff, Moffat says live from New York for the 20th time. He is now in sole possession of 15th place on the all-time list, one behind John Belushi. So he's slowly making his way up there for all those Alex fans who love him. Let's talk a little bit about Regina King and the episode. Going into it, Liz, are you a Regina King fan? And were you excited to see her on the show?
Well, I have eyes and ears and a heart. So yeah, of course I'm a Regina King fan.
Okay, well, tell me about it.
Yeah, no, it's one of those annoying things where she's just so good, has been so good for decades. We're finally catching up to that. And the fact that at this moment, she's now like, okay, well, I'm done being the best actor ever. I'll just go start being the best director ever. It's not fair. She's really incredible. I was really excited going into this episode. I was really had my hopes up.
Definitely. I mean, Bill, I'm surprised she's ever hosted before. I mean, she's an Oscar winner, 4-time Emmy winner, Golden Globe winner. She was named in 2019 one of the top 100 influential people in the world. She's a major talent, and I'm so happy that SNL brought her in.
Yes, I took exception in her monologue that white guys didn't know who she was. I mean, I've had a crush on her since 227, so that's going back 35 years. But no, I mean, she carried every sketch. Like, she really put herself into everything, and that was impressive. I mean, that's the sign of a true good host, is when they can go out there, and even when there was some very questionable sketches this week, she put herself into it and nailed it. And I think that was great. I mean, she's been around for so long. It's hard to imagine, like you said, that it took this long for her to get here.
Yeah. And Haynes, like, I know you love the episode, but with regards to people's complaints, like, nobody was complaining about Regina King. Like, she was great. And she, like Bill said, led a lot of these sketches. So were you excited to see her on the show?
I was excited to see her. Along with the, Bill's comment on the monologue, I guess Michael Che doesn't know that white guys have been a fan of Regina King for a very long time. Boondocks was like my favorite show, when I was like 19 or 20, 21, something like that. So yeah, been a big fan of Regina King for a long time. She's obviously a magnificent actor, as Liz was saying. And I did watch One Night in Miami recently, which was beautifully directed and really the ending really came in strong. So yeah, I was very excited about the episode. I always say that my favorite hosts are stand-up comics, but right behind that, honestly, is like classically trained actors. They really excel on the stage. And so I knew that she would handle her parts, with grace and power. And I think I don't know, Bill, if we're thinking about the same skit when you talk about her, putting it all in, even though it's not such a great skit. But that's really how I felt about the '70s green room. She's really putting it in, but the skit was just not doing it for me. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, look, let's talk about it. I mean, let's talk about the episode, and we can start right there if you would like, and then we'll each kind of bring up a sketch that we want to talk about. So 70s Green Room, you said that was the one that was near the end of the episode. That was a really weird sketch for me, so I don't even know what to say about that. But Bill, did you want to touch on that a little bit?
It really felt like a throwback, both literally and figuratively. I mean, it was...
You know what it felt like? Sorry, I didn't interrupt you. It really felt like a Tina Fey era sketch, like in the
fast talk.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Yes,
really felt like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and Bowen was so great in that sketch as well. I mean, bringing out the dry salad and allowing himself to be slapped on a constant basis. Even 80 coming in for that, couple seconds and, dropping every kind of no that she could. It was a mess if you look at it overall, but I think that it was really, she brought out the funny and the very little that was there.
Yeah, Liz, do you want to touch on that sketch at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a classic example of we have one joke and we're just going to keep doing it over and over again, and it's going to theoretically it'll be funnier the more we do it. I thought
what was the joke? Can someone explain it to me? I don't understand what the joke is.
They just keep screwing up this nice lady's writing. But I wasn't shocked when I saw that Bowen Yang was a co-writer on it, because it is such a great showcase for him. And I've been on this podcast before talking about how much I love him as a performer. So I can't fully hate on that sketch the way that I might be hating on other sketches this night. I think in general, for my feeling on this episode is that, like any SNL episode, there are a collection of good sketches. It's like baseball. There's some wins, there's some losses, and it's what you do in the middle that counts. But in this case, some of the losses were so bad that, there are some, I was I was talking with a coworker the morning after and saying, because they were going to go through and pick the best sketch. And I went through the list of sketches. I was like, oh, here are the 4 that I think are worth consideration. And the fact that I was able to find 4 that I considered like good sketches surprised me a bit, until I realized that it wasn't that there were those sketches. It wasn't that those sketches weren't good. It's just that all the other sketches were so bad. And on like, just like on a writing level, it was all writing this night.
I'm so with you. We're vibing so hard right now. I'm so with you. Haynes, you look like you're about to explode though. So just
sorry.
I'm just laughing at the candor, the power of this candor.
Well,
how bad the writing is.
Okay,
please, you go on. Finish this thought. Yeah.
Well, no, I was going to say is Haynes, I know you love the episode. It seems like out of the 4 of us, you love the episode the most. So give me one sketch that you really liked that you want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, you're going a little far to say love. I've noticed you've said that a few times, but
you loved it.
But yes.
You're married to this episode now.
Yeah. So listen, I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was better than the Jason Bateman episode. And maybe the John Krasinski episode. But I mean, to me, like I said, the green room is probably my least favorite. I also thought that What's Your Type wasn't really working for me at first. It was better on rewatch. Everything was better on rewatch.
Yes.
But I admit, the first time through, there was probably like 3 that I was not super into. Those being 2 of them.
Well, give me one you liked.
Well, I actually thought the elbow was pretty funny at the very end. It's later in the episode, but I feel like the actors were really crushing it. Adie and Kate and Regina, everybody was into their roles, particularly Adie and Kate. So I thought that one was funny.
Let's put a pin in that. So
okay.
Let's stop right there. Liz, you are our female representation on the panel this week.
As the sole possessor of an elbow here.
Exactly. Give us your opinion on the women's theater sketch.
I thought that was one of my favorites of the night. That was one of my top 4. And I think it really, it's a one joke premise. But I think what really sold it was the fact that you had 3 really strong different types of feminists on stage doing the bit. And I thought also it's a hard thing to mix in the asides from the audience, like the skeptical audience member reacting to it. But I thought that it was Heidi as the teacher, right? Or
yeah, Heidi and Mikey.
I thought she was perfect, and the blanking also on who played the kid, but
Melissa.
I think the audience reactions were really solid on that. On stage, the on stage performances were really strong. I think it was just like a really solid example of that type of sketch.
Yeah, I felt like when we were talking about how great Regina King was, she crushed it in this. Like, she was like hitting a full home run just in her like serious look on her face and just how intense she was with everything. I'm not sure that like I felt like this went anywhere, that I like absolutely said this was a classic sketch, but I do feel like that the premise was at least funny enough. And I think that Regina King made this sketch way better than it would have been with a different host. Bill, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's become clear now in episode 12 of the season that this is a performer year. And I mean, we've had at least, and this episode especially, at least 2 or 3 sketches where you put that in some other era and it is one of the worst things you've ever seen. But the fact that these 20 cast members and Regina were able to make gold out of stuff that's a one-note song. I liked the elbow sketch as well. I have that kind of humor sometimes, so I can. The camera work was a little distracting to me, and that seems to be an ongoing problem with the show.
There's
I don't
a massive glitch in that sketch.
I don't know if it's COVID related, if they're shorthanded, but it seems
so. Here's the theory. I did text a couple people about this. This is the belief is that there are cut lines in certain sketches that don't get translated properly to the control room, so they end up going to the wrong cameras at different points because they have different versions of the scripts.
Okay.
And that is something that is possibly affected more during the COVID era of things than otherwise. Bill, but I have to ask, you said this is your kind of humor. What do you, what?
I mean, I like sophisticated humor, but then I can also be taken by an elbow is a something else joke and just lose it and laugh my ass off, especially at 12:50 in the morning on a Saturday night. So I I can appreciate that, and the fact that all these women did such a great job in this sketch. I mean, just completely made it much more palatable.
Yeah, definitely fair. Liz, let me go to you. Can you give me a sketch that you would like to talk about?
Well, let's switch to a pre-tape. I really enjoyed The Negotiator. I thought that it wasn't one I was expecting to like. I think it took a little while to build up, but once it hit its stride and once it got really leaned into the weird, I think basically when Melissa Villaseñor shows up as Marge Simpson, that's when I was like, this is. I've been like, and it part helps that like I was feeling pretty down on the episode in general, just because there have been some real turkeys of sketches. But the negotiator was like, okay, they're finally not wasting their time with Regina King. Like, this is really fun. So that was one that was a real bright spot for me.
This was the highlight of the night for me. I don't know if you guys feel the same, but I felt like this was one of the best sketches of the entire season. This was so funny, and I don't know if it was like, and I want to hear your opinions, but I don't know if this was like, I've never tried weed gummies, but someone very close to me recently did and was like, oh, like it's COVID, things are boring, like I want to try them, and then the person tried one and didn't feel anything. And then, yeah, they were told, okay, well, keep like increasing the amount that you try until you finally feel something. And then it just ended up being like way too much. Like and then it was just like a bad experience. And maybe it was just like, cause I knew about this that I like personally related to. I'm sure there's a lot of people who have tried it or know of people who have edibles like this. But I just thought the heightened craziness that was happening to the point of where like the Teletubby son has like now grown up is so weird. This was just so great. Bill, what did you think of it?
I didn't like it as much as the other pre-tape, but I did like it. Are we just painting Pete's face whenever we get the chance now? Like, is that the going, between the Grinch and it's crazy. But I mean, Melissa's Marge was incredible. If they don't give her more of a stage to do these impressions, it's a crime. But yeah, I mean, and it's another one where Regina kills it. Like, she's just talking to herself and I mean, it was great.
Yeah, it's actually a really good point because Bill, when we had Jeff Richards on the podcast with us in the fall, and you were on that episode, we actually, like, one of the questions we had for him was like, as an alumni that was mostly impression based, did you have trouble getting material on the show, and like how did you like go about that? And like his answer was like, he really didn't have a great answer. He was just like, look, they tell me like I need this impression, I get to work on it. And I think that like somebody was like, hey Melissa, like we know you have a Marge Simpson impression, we're gonna throw that in here. And I think that was like the best place to use her compared to other things that have happened this season. Haynes, let me get your opinion on that sketch.
Well, the whole setup for that sketch is perfect for non sequiturs like that impression. If you don't know where to use them, now you've got an excuse because we framed it in this, this little story where kind of anything can pop in, since it's just insanity that's happening in a person's head. So I don't know if maybe they've had this, Homer or Marge's, impression sitting around and just wondered how we could get it into something, and they said, okay, fine, we can squeeze it in here. Well, that's fine with me. That's great. Any impressions from Melissa are good with me. I wasn't like super into this sketch, but I will say I actually found the stupid little song kind of catchy. I especially on the second watch, I was like, I kind of like that. I have a little bit of a pet peeve about any time in media when they have someone ingest THC and then hallucinate, since this like doesn't happen really. But so that's always kind of goofy to me that we like still go there as a nation, especially where like it's it's legal in your whole nation and almost all of ours. It's like I think everyone knows like you don't need a gummy to hallucinate, but like I said, I like the song.
Yeah, yeah.
Listen. As far as I will say this, as far as the some things that came out of this episode, the pre-tape with Kyle that got cut, I would have loved to have seen that in place of Drunk Tom Brady. Drunk Tom Brady did not do it for me. I'm sorry, but that Kyle pre-tape that they cut, I don't care how long they beat us over the head with that awkward character. I love it every time.
Yeah, I want to talk about that in a second. What I will say, just to put a final note on that negotiator sketch. Look, I think that sketch was like a 9 out of 10 for me. The one point that was missing was I really feel like Mikey Day should have shot Andrew Dismukes in the head. Like, I don't understand how you end that sketch with him being like, "Hey, I guess it's all good now." Like, completely took me out of it. Like, I just don't understand that. But anyways, let's talk about that Kyle piece. I know it wasn't actually in the episode, so if you haven't seen it and you've gone online, it's basically Kyle walking around in his usual, the Kyle Leslie verse, where he walks around 8H and he starts talking to, former other cast members, and he wants somebody to come to his party because nobody likes him and everybody else has friends and he doesn't. And it's like classic Kyle. And just, for us SNL superfans to see so much of the backstage and see the cast members, like we had Che, who's like never in a sketch. He's in a sketch. Like, that was disappointing that, again, something like that gets cut. To answer your question, Haynes, it wasn't the Tom Brady that would have been cut. It would have been the Kate that would have been cut, because Kate wasn't in dress, but Kate was added after dress. So if they were going to cut something off of Update, I believe it would have been Kate. But Liz, did you get a chance to watch that Kyle pre-tape?
I did, and I really, it was enjoyable. Like, it was a fun, I also like the backstage stuff. I enjoy the Kyle verse, if you will. I'm trying to remember the beats of it, because there were some good ones. I appreciated the fact that Kyle was wearing a bright red suit for his Valentine's Day party. Yeah, there was some really fun details in it. I think that's where those sketches really shine, is that because they've done, because there's already groundwork laid as to what the world of those sketches are, they can just really play around with the nuances of it.
Yeah.
It's also always a good showcase for the host whenever they get brought in, because they really do find a way to like let the host play with their persona however they might want to do it.
Yeah, I don't know why they think we don't want to see these. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, that they, like, I see in the rundown, like, it's literally left for the end of the show so that they can cut it if the show goes long. Like, I don't get that.
I mean, I can see them leaning, like, the fact is, like, they are inside baseball enough that, if you are an SNL super fan, like, say us, you will go online and you will track it down. And if you aren't an SNL super fan, then maybe it's not as interesting to you as a drunk Tom Brady or Witch Bit.
Yeah, that's fair. Bill, did you want to comment on the Kyle thing?
Yeah, I thought it was great. And, if I had any complaints about the cast this year, I think Kyle, just when he does live sketches, man, some of them are just so awkward and I know that's his shtick. I know that's what he's going for, but some of it just doesn't play for me. But he shines when he does these pre-tapes, when he lives in this universe. And it was probably one of the 3 funniest moments of the night when I watched it the next day. So, like, why would that have been taken out? And like you guys alluded to as well. So, yeah.
All right, Bill, give me one sketch that you want to talk about that was actually on the show.
I really liked What's Your Type. I know we've seen 87 dating shows, and I had to look up and I had to Google to see if this was an actual MTV show, because I'm not in the MTV demographic anymore. But
it's on MTV4 with Deep House.
But I thought everybody in this sketch did such a great job. working with questionable material again, but Regina just right from Jump Street, she was out there putting herself out there with all the jokes about these cringy guys, and I think Mikey and Alex especially both really brought the cringe. Alex singing these terrible 90s songs, and Ego turning into a pile of dust. Like that was, I liked it a lot.
I really kind of thought Mikey stole the show on this one. I thought he really nailed the cringe. I just by the end of the sketch, and especially on the rewatch, I just felt like he was really excelling with the awkwardness. And Regina King was, busting her butt. She was like, really getting into all her lines. It almost seemed like, I don't know if there was just. And this is something, that I maybe should have said a second ago with the pre-tape. Sometimes, you're trying to wait for the joke to land. Maybe you wait a little bit too long and the laugh dies, like before the next person gets, they don't say their line quick enough, or maybe the next person doesn't let your joke land long enough. I think that's obviously the beauty of the pre-tapes, is you've got a director who's going to make you go through, 20, 50 takes before he goes, okay, that, and then we can edit it and say, okay, all right, this, there's not going to be any of that. The jokes are always going to land, and they're never going to be squished by the next line coming in. I think there was a little bit of that going on in this episode, or particularly the sketch. I think it could have gotten more laughs from me, because I think the jokes were pretty funny, but there was something about the timing that it felt like the laughs weren't getting in right where they needed to be, and that's, I think, what amped it down for a little bit.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I missed a couple of Cecily's jokes until the second rewatch. So yeah, it's definitely, like you said, squished.
I don't know, guys. This just didn't do it for me. I mean, the two princes and the sixpence none the richer, like that stuff was cute, and like that I thought was funny. But like, when Mikey was like, "Oh no, I bombed. Please get the camera off of me." Like that's how I felt about this sketch. I was like, "Let's go quickly, like move forward."
This was my least favorite sketch of the night. Like
Wow.
I hated this. And it was all the writing. It was nothing. It was just the premise. And I mean, like, I feel like the dating sketches, like I feel like with the dating sketches, you have to have some base level of humanity involved in order for them to work. Because you want the date, the idea is you want these people to eventually go on a date, maybe. And I don't hate cringe comedy. I have watched The Comeback over and over again, and that show is the king of cringe comedy. But this was just a mess to me. It was just a mess, and like all the actors were doing their best, but it just didn't work for me. I literally was just basically sitting there waiting for it to end. Like I hate it. This was the sketch that put a bad taste in my mouth for the rest of the night.
I'm with you. I feel like the show didn't start off strong for me, and it definitely I got nervous about where the show was going. And I do feel like, just to put a button on that one, the Mikey and Streeter sketches I think work a lot better when Mikey is reacting to something weird, when he just like gets incredulous and he's just like, I can't believe this weird thing is happening. How is nobody else noticing how weird this is? That I think works way better than Mikey playing weird. I don't know. He doesn't do it for me like that. Okay. So, but with one that I want to talk about, I mean, like I said, we started with, that sketch, and it didn't really do it for me. And then, the show like slowly started to pick up, and there was a couple that I really liked that we didn't get to talk about. And one was this Peloton sketch, which I thought was great. I mean, like, I know my mom just got an Echelon bike in her in the basement and stuff like that. So like, I know a lot of people during quarantine, like they love to, they've been getting a lot of these exercise bikes, and I'm sure it's like hard to get motivated, but the fact that this was a great use of putting the entire cast basically in a sketch. And I think like the highlight for me was Melissa on the bike, and then Bowen and Mikey are just talking to each other, like standing in the back, completely ignoring her. And I thought there was so much good here. Liz, let me send it back to you. What'd you think of this?
I mean, no, it was in fact like the first sketch I started, I was like, okay, this is at least funny. It was actually funny because I thought when I saw the Peloton, I thought they were going to do a Joe Biden thing. But they did not. And I think it's kind of a kissing cousin to the Soul Cycle sketches that they or their Soul. It was a Soul Cycle, and they've also like, and maybe during the was it? Yeah, I think during At Home they did like the Soul Cycle sketch.
Yeah, they did one then. It's like the weird instructors where they just like keep rotating in.
Yeah, I think like that they found like especially Kate and Bowen seem to have a real knack for playing like the special sort of playing like weird variants on exercise instructors, like, and that's an important niche, I guess. But yeah, I thought it was a clever idea, and I thought it was really well executed.
And also, like, great use of the curb music. Like, that was just such
that's a great thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Bill,
It's public domain, so
yeah, it's true. It's true. It's like putting Happy Birthday. Bill, what did you think about it?
I think the best commercials that the show ever does is when they lean into the real, and that was, I mean, these Peloton commercials are so annoying and so terrible, and to just kind of make that and times 100, and like you said, I mean, bringing all the cast into this, playing off each other. I think Ego and Heidi played off each other really well as well, saying, you know, oh, I didn't know you just had a baby.
Yeah.
You know,
that was my favorite part.
Yes, and I mean, Beck from behind, and is that what my butt really looks like? I mean, there were so many good lines in this, and being able to see the cast work together, I think was fantastic.
Yeah, Haynes, what about you?
I loved this. I absolutely loved this. And honestly, I relate a little bit to being that type of person who, if people are like highly encouraging you to do something, you're just like kind of turned off by it. So I relate a little bit to maybe the Peloton would be a perfect product for me. I did think there was a ton of great lines. Really, they were all great because there was so much passive aggression and particularly like, you know, like Bowen is just so good at that. And but Heidi, I thought, was the one that was maybe my hardest laugh of the episode, was when Heidi said, "Oh, someday," the fingers crossed. Yeah, brutal. I love it.
Yeah, it was so good. Okay, so there was a few others we wanted to talk about. Does anyone want to say anything about the girl's birthday sketch with the 5 women and the signs?
I thought that was pretty funny. If you don't like it, Bill?
No. This was the bottom of the episode for me. It's just classic SNL going on for way too long. Like, did we need that many signs? We got the joke, and you know, as I keep saying, like the cast members are carrying everything, even the weak material. And 80's great. Every time another sign comes out, oh, that looks like you. But it went on way too long. It was a one-note song, the entire sketch. I did not like it at all.
I mean, I like that. I mean, it was another one where it's like it's the same joke over and over again. But like you said, but I will say that at least in this case, I thought there was a good progression to it. Like the buildup of, you know, we're building up to the part where she has a drinking problem. I thought there's a nice build to it, and also as someone who has frequented the kind of stores where you buy signs like that, I simply wandered around and been like, this is a lot of advertising about how much you love wine. Like, you love wine. Like, you love wine in maybe a way that's a little unhealthy. Like, I think make like you know, any comedy that comes from something where it's like it is a very real, relatable thing that you can buy those signs all over the place, and it's a funny joke for wine moms. But, you know, maybe that's not the best lifestyle choice.
So it's very, you know, as someone who doesn't walk around a lot of stores where they sell all these signs and stuff, I did not know that. I'm loving to hear your perspective right now, because I did not know that it was, you know, that wine was such a theme. I really thought we were just making fun of like this character in this sketch.
Oh no. Wine. Look, Google wine moms. It's a whole thing. Like, you can buy.
No, there's also not just wine ones. There's also ones that home is where the hoe and me meet.
Oh, okay.
But that was. But like the idea of, I'm so funny and sassy because I'm like I've got this sign up about how much I like wine in my kitchen. Like that is a very common thing.
And I'm aware of that. Actually, yeah, my neighbors have one on their front porch that says "Laughter lives here," and I think I bet it doesn't. But
I was gonna say, Haynes, I'm just so impressed with this sketch that they remembered the order of the bags. Like I couldn't believe that they.
Good point.
Yeah,
it was. They were numbered.
That's a great point. Yeah,
I'm sure they had some system, but I just like you think about the amount of bags and signs that they had to give over to 80, and it was just so impressive that they didn't mess that up at all.
Well, that's a great point. I love to think about the technical aspects of this show that we probably don't think about all the time, especially, the actual, being right on your spot and all the little things that have to happen for a stage production to work well. So that's a great point. But to what Liz was saying, actually, yeah, I do feel like this had a little bit more of an arc than some sketches do. And really, you want a sketch to be like a scene. You want it to have a little story. There should be an obstacle, and someone should either overcome it or not in the end. And there should be a little bit of a story. And this actually felt like it was something that probably didn't have a bunch of stuff trimmed out of it, right before the show aired or something, because we did have the build, and then we had the kind of, the tension where she talks about feeling called out. And then we have this kind of false high where she thinks, oh, I can get behind this. My favorite nights are the ones that I forget with my friends. Okay, of course. And then in true comedy, she bottoms out at the end. And so I do think, as far as structure, I think it was a well put together sketch.
I'm pretty sure that's a Drake lyric also. The I live for the nights I can't forget with I live for the nights I can't remember with the people that I won't forget. Okay, so yeah, that one was interesting. I do think there was something there, but maybe they didn't fully hit it. There is something else that I want to talk about from this episode, which when I found out like immediately prior that they were going to be doing this, I was super interested, which was that Lauren Holt got her own solo piece on Update. And this was her first, exposure to, like being herself in front of the camera. And I was excited to see what she was going to do. I'll save my opinion on it, but let me go to Liz. What did you think about Lauren's piece on Update?
This is a relationship expert.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really fun. Like I thought at least it started really strong. It was and I don't know, I think it kind of petered out by the end, but I do think that she did really well with the material, and it was a fun bit.
Yeah. Bill, we get these moments like every few seasons where we have this featured player, whether it's like Luke Null or John Rudnitsky, and they get their like one moment, their one chance on Update. And I hope this isn't Lauren's only chance because I want to see more from her, but we really haven't seen anything all season. So there was a lot, basically, like it felt like a lot was riding on this moment. How do you think she did?
I think she did great. It's if I make the sports equivalent, it's like seeing that rookie get called up and seeing him in his first game. I mean, and even people who don't end up succeeding on the show end up. I mean, look at Sarah Silverman coming back and showing her weekend updates bit. So I mean, it's such a great moment to know how hard they worked to get there. It took 12 episodes, but it was great, and it was the best piece on Update this weekend.
Yeah, Haynes, what was your opinion?
I was excited to see her get this character, and I think she really drove all the way through it. Like it never felt like she let up. I do kind of know what you're talking about, Liz, in the way that it kind of felt like the energy petered a little bit from the beginning. Like maybe the hardest laugh was when she first gets the text and we realize, and she's saying, I hate to do it this way. But and maybe the energy came down a little bit from there, but not really from her. Like she punched through her character the whole time. She stayed, she kept that energy up all the way through the very end when Weekend Update ends. Then she goes, oh wait, is there something on my face or something like that? And so, yeah, I was just really happy for her. It wasn't my favorite part of Weekend Update. I really enjoyed Grismelda, aka Stephanie Green. I mean, it was stupid.
No,
stupid stuff like that. I love stupid stuff like that, and I don't know. Maybe I can't articulate why, but it got laughs. I laughed at it the whole time, And I don't know why I enjoyed it. I just did.
I'm really happy you enjoyed that.
Yeah. my only slight reservation, I'm sure this is just this, actually there is really no connection, but Jezebel does the blog Jezebel does an occasional bit where Cannibal Witch will come in and write a post about some issue of the day. And so I was like, they're not doing Cannibal Witch here, are they? No, but the whole QAnon connection, like, if you know even the slightest bit about QAnon, it was really funny.
Yeah, certainly. But I do want to just go back to the Lauren thing for 1 second and just say I was texting with Andy Hogland, who is a regular on our podcast and writes the recaps for Entertainment Weekly, and we knew that it was going to be like I said, a pretty monumental moment for Lauren to have her piece on there. So there certainly was a lot of analysis to be done about her segment on Update, and I think, like you guys said, the moment she gets the text was the laugh out loud moment of this thing, and I felt like where the writing needed to go with Lauren's piece was she needed to be all upset and said, you know what, like, I can do this. I'm going to keep it together. I'm going to talk to you, Che. And then she needed to get like a text from like her landlord, and she needed to like get evicted, you know? And then it's like, no, I'm okay. I can do this. It's fine. And then she needed to get like a text that like her friend died. Like it needed to like heighten. And I feel that it just like, it needed to not only be about somebody breaking up with her, it needed to be like so extreme that we feel so bad for this character in a way that's almost meta, because you feel bad for like this person. It's their first time on Update. And I think that there was just like I said, a lot of the stuff in this episode had the ingredients, but I'm not sure that the cake was fully built for this. Anyways, that's just my 2 cents on that. There was something else from Update that I know we've talked about a lot on this podcast, but Liz, let me turn to you. They made another Morgan Wallen joke. You were with us. I believe last time you were with us, we had an intense discussion about this thing. What is your opinion about them continuously bringing up this Morgan Wallen thing?
I mean, I just don't, I guess I know we talked about in the pre-show, in the pre-show, like, I said, I have something to say about it. But in retrospect, I just don't get it. Like, do you guys want to keep punching yourselves in the face? Like, yeah, you made a mistake. You invited him on. And then you had to kick him off because he violated COVID rules. Great. Okay. You had him back on. And now you're going to do a whole sketch about how, wasn't it funny that he violated COVID regulations or restrictions and he had to be kicked off. Wasn't that funny? Okay, great. And then you do not one but 2 Weekend Update jokes about how he keeps getting, about this current thing he's been doing. Just like, why do you want to keep reminding us that you guys had him on the show? Like, do you think you look better as a result? Like, you don't. It's a fascinating problem. But yeah, I mean, the guy clearly demonstrated the same level of mental acuity just now that he did back in the fall. And if SNL wants to keep reminding us of the fact that they thought he was worth their airtime, then more power to him.
Yeah, Bill, this is no Jan Hooks coming back and playing Sinead O'Connor.
It's stunning. Like, how do we keep going back to this well when they created part of this problem? I don't understand it. I just let it be. I mean, or lean all the way into it and make it a Morgan Wallen watch every week on Weekend Update. Because I mean, what else is the point of this at this point? This joke was not needed. There were so many other things they could have been talking about, and it made no sense. It didn't fit. Yeah,
Haynes, they needed like a David Spade to be like, look, guys, a shooting star.
I'll never get tired of David Spade's snarkiness and his, that show that he's got now is pretty funny. I don't know if they only gave it one. Did they give it a second season? I'm not
canceled.
Okay, that's what I thought. It felt. But so listen, I've talked about how much I despise that Morgan Wallen sketch when they brought him back, the apology sketch. In fact, on this podcast, I started to talk about it with such passion that I think your exact response, John, was, Andrew, I can't do this again. And so that I hated. Making 2 Morgan Wallen jokes 2 weeks in a row, I don't have such a problem with. I mean, one, it's only, it's one joke. It's 15 seconds or whatever it takes to get out. And, it was pretty big news, I guess, probably, last week when he dropped the N-bomb. This, with him losing his record contract, I don't think that's as big news, but maybe I'm just out of the pop music loop. Maybe it is big news. I do have a theory, though, about why they were willing to go back there 2 weeks in a row. And I think it's because we just love, sucking all the racist juices we can out of Colin. And it's for a long time, it was kind of like Che. We saw Che thinking of Colin as this like racist guy. It's really gotten to the point now where Colin has fully embraced the racist character. So he's like a racist character now. And I think, 20 years from now, when we talk about Che and Jost era, we'll go, oh yeah, and towards the end of it, like, yeah, Colin basically just played this racist guy, and it'll just be part of the gag. I know that some people think they've gone too far with it, and they wish that they would leave it alone. Well, it's not up to us, and they've chosen to fully embody it and live with it.
It's not up to us. Okay, all right. Let's just forget everything. Forget the podcast.
Well, I think it speaks to I don't know if it's Colin just playing into being a racist as it so much as it is like I think there's kind of been it feels like there was a discussion, and it's like, look, the guy's good looking, he's got a dream job, he's freaking married to Scarlett Johansson now. We're not going to get very far making fun of this guy for like being a loser.
For much else, yeah.
Yeah. So we got to lean into making fun of his privilege. And so that's where I think it really comes down to is just like, and I do confess, I hate myself for liking that material so much, but I do genuinely kind of enjoy. As bad an idea as I think the Morgan Wallen jokes were, I do think the idea of implying that Colin just taught Morgan Wallen the N-word, that did make me laugh, and I kind of hate myself for it, but I did laugh at it.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been your Morgan Wallen segment of the week.
And now for Morgan Wallen.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Morgan Wallen. Okay, let's move on. So interesting episode. We talked about stuff we liked, stuff we didn't like. Let's talk a little bit about the cast. So like I said, this is the second episode that we've had this year where we've had all 20 cast members in the show. So we had a nice variety. I believe 80 won the night with the most sketches for cast members. But we did see a little bit of everybody. So Liz, let me start with you. Tell me one cast member that really stood out that you want to talk about.
Melissa Villaseñor didn't get enough to do, but that Marge Simpson was really good. And she definitely feels like somebody where they just, there needs to be, even when she's not playing, even when she's not doing an impression, she can be really funny. Like, honestly, as that classic Adam Driver sketch, oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name of the character now. The sketch where he crushes his enemies.
Give me 1 second. Okay, continue.
Thank you. But yes, but that Adam Driver sketch, like she kills the line, "You are weak," like H.R. Pickens, and she can be a really strong supporting player, and on top of also just really leading sketches. And we saw that during the At Home series. Like, she did some really fun stuff during that time period. And yeah, she feels like an underappreciated performer to me. Like, I would like to see her do more.
Yeah, the name you were looking for is Abraham H. Parnassus.
Thank you.
Yes. Bill, what about you? Give me somebody that stood out to you.
I think Ago had another great week. I'd like to see her leading more sketches, but what she's given, she does the most with. She was great in the Peloton act. She was great in the I'm blanking now. What's Your Type? I think she was the best part of that. And she was even good in the Gorilla Glue. Ugh, that horrible Gorilla Glue sketch. So I think that she's turning out to be one of the MVPs of the season at the midpoint. So,
yeah, definitely. Haynes, what about you?
So I've got to echo a few sentiments there. Yes, I feel like Ego has really been standing out, and I love that. That's one of the. It feels like she's one of the bright stars that, I mean, she has been for a while, but that we're really getting to see in the second half of the season. I also think it's really great. I feel like just all the young folks, Punky and Andrew, have been getting on screen a lot more, and I love that for both of them. Really felt like we've seen some good stuff from Punky the last couple of weeks. But one of the things, I just love seeing the young folks. Andrew and Punky and Ego have really. It's just been great to see them the last few weeks, even though Andrew hasn't really gotten too much. But I feel like I have a good feeling about him. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. So it's been great to see Punky as well. But Ego, I think, really has emerged in the second half of the season, and I hope that's something we continue. Oh, I remember what I wanted to say though. Something during just watching the other night during the intro, I almost forgot that Bowen is still just a featured player. He's not a full cast member. Like, it's hard to believe that. It feels like he's in, and not too many sketches. It feels like he's in every sketch in a good way. Like, I feel like I see Bowen all the time, and I love him, and I love everything he's doing. And then I'm just watching the intro, and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot he's still a featured player. Like, wow, it feels like he has been so magnetic over the past year and a half that it feels like we've known him forever. So just really looking forward to our future with Bowen, I think.
I hope he gets promoted at the end of the season. That would be lovely. And also, to your point, like Andrew Dismukes was, I was blanking on his name earlier, but he was the student in the women's theater sketch who I thought really nailed his bit of the scene. So I would agree with that. He's been really solid in every like tiny bit part he's gotten.
Yeah, for sure. And I love what the feature players are doing every single week. I love to see it. Andrew, Bowen, Chloe, Punky, Lauren. Like, even Lauren, I want to give her big props for going out there for the first time by herself. Like, that's a big moment. Like, we saw how much is, even in the last few years with Heidi, how much just having an update character does for the trajectory of your career. So really props to Lauren. I want to shout out her. But look, he didn't get a lot of screen time this week, but someone who I just consistently this season I'm so impressed with is Pete. And I just think that he had a hand in writing this negotiator sketch. And for me, like I said, I really felt that this was a highlight of the season this week. And I think if they were going to do a best of, I think you would see the sketch at the end of the year. So I have to give props to Pete for that.
It does seem like Pete's has a new level of commitment this season. And he's not just playing Pete, he's playing a lot of different characters. And that's really cool to see.
Yeah, and I hope that means that he's going to stick around, because I'm not at a point where I'm too tired of seeing Pete in stuff, because like you said, Liz, this is a newer Pete that, really wants to be on the show and loves the show and is trying as hard as he can. So I hope we get at least like 2 or 3 more seasons from him, maybe.
It's clear that Lauren's very comfortable getting him out there a lot more than he had in the past. It almost felt like there was a phase where we were only seeing Pete as kind of like an apologetic Weekend Update character, like talking about his own kind of dystopian life at the time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of this new level of Pete as well.
Yeah. Me too. Is there anybody else who wanted to say anything about this Regina King episode before we move on to what's coming up? All right, let's do it. So we got this announcement on Saturday night that next week we are going to be having, and I hope I pronounce this correctly, rege-jean Page from, I'm trying to say it in my Quebec accent.
I know, you're from Quebec.
You got the best chance of any of us.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But he's British. So he's a Brit who's coming in. He is the Duke of Hastings from Bridgerton. I have personally not seen Bridgerton. I'm going to try and watch a little bit this week so I get to know him a little bit better on there. But he was on Fallon about a month ago. He did great on there. They were talking about him potentially being the next James Bond. I know that a lot of people find him super attractive, and I love seeing everything from him on Bridgerton. Liz, are you familiar with his work?
Yes, I am. I've watched the Bridgerton. I look forward to that show. It is horny as hell. If you want to watch some horny ass TV, you watch Bridgerton. It's great. I love it. No, it's good. I should watch his Fallon appearance, because on Bridgerton he is playing a very specific type of character that is very serious, very straight down the middle. And that doesn't mean he can't be a total goofball. I don't know if you guys watched Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar this weekend. But if you did, you got to see Jamie Dornan from 50 Shades of Grey turn in one of the best comedic performances of the year. And that was unexpected. And so I would honestly expect similar things from this young man. Like, he's, it's another first time host. And that's like, that's 3 in a row now.
That'll be 4 in a row. Yeah.
No, it wasn't based. It was Krasinski's first time too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with a first time host, you really have to depend on the writing. And, I'm actually kind of nervous for him, like, because if hopefully the writing is better next week than it was this week. But should be interesting.
Yeah, I really hope so. I mean, when he was on Fallon, he basically compared Bridgerton. He said it was about like 35 shades of gray. So I know, Bill, like, I know when we had Dakota Johnson on right after the 40th anniversary, I think that was actually a pretty great show. So very different people, but still interesting. What are your thoughts about this Paige episode coming up next week?
I have to say, this is the first time in 35 years that I had to look up who the host is. I've never heard of him. Haven't seen Bridgerton. I know of Bridgerton, but I didn't know. My wife was very happy when we Googled him and said, "Oh, okay, well, that'll be all right next week." So, I feel like this is the never-ending song this year with the new hosts and the people who wouldn't typically host a comedy show. This is our 8th new host of the year. That's got to be close to as many as we've had in a long time. And we still have 7 episodes left, presumably. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. Won't have as many fangirls in the audience as we would during pre-COVID, but hopefully he does a good job. Yeah.
Haynes, what about you?
I haven't seen Bridgerton, but I didn't have to look up who he was. So I'm somewhere in the middle. One of the things I said earlier this episode was that, right behind stand-up comics, I admit I don't know about, his actor training and stuff, but I do feel like really classically trained actors come on and they just have a nuance for the stage and working through these sketches. So there's a chance that he may be exceptional. And, I think, I don't know how hyped this episode is going to be. It doesn't feel like it's going to be particularly hyped, even though I know I'm outside the Bridgerton bubble, so probably more hype from those folks. But it's so, I feel like it's the ones that are underhyped that, sometimes we get just absolute gems. And so with the combination of that and, him being this great classically trained actor, I assume, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited to see from a person that I haven't seen them in anything else. I don't know anything about him. So he's just gonna get to go up there and let it rip, and I'm cool with that.
I have 2 questions. One is, I have one comment and one question. The comment is, I am kind of dreading the cold open because I'm worried that it's just going to be a total like, he's like, I'm trying to, it's me and I'm hosting SNL, and then it's just constant interruptions by female cast members objectifying him. Like,
you mean the monologue you're saying?
Yeah, the monologue, yes. Sorry, not the cold open. Yeah. I'm kind of dreading that monologue. Hopefully they don't go in that direction. Hopefully they find some other thing to do, but that's where my brain is. Also, but my major question is, I was genuinely surprised that they were doing a new episode on Friday, not Friday, on this upcoming week, just because they're going to be on for 4 weeks. And, usually they don't, unless it's like an election year, like they don't go for 4 weeks straight. Are we, have you guys in the past noticed, like, on week 4, a level of fatigue? Like, is that, should we expect like a downturn in quality just for the basic fact that they've been working full tilt for the last?
And they already did this, a super version of this early in the first half of the season, going, I think, what was it, 6 episodes in a row?
6, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was insane.
Okay, well, we're getting 5 in a row. So there will be one coming up after next week.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, so they're doing 5 in a row, and then there's going to be 20 episodes total in the season. So we're going to have a run of 5, a run of 3, and a run of 3 to close the season. So a total of, 8 episodes left in the season. But yeah, I mean, I think different people have different opinions about this. I don't think that there's an exact science to it. I think that in the past there has been, I mean, maybe Bill, you can back me up on this, but there has been noted that a lot of people go on vacation in between the runs. And then, there's been talk that in that last week of a run, like in week number 3, that a lot of people have their minds elsewhere about where they're going to be going the following week, that sometimes the quality of the show dips in that 3rd week. But then there's also people who say that the first week isn't great either because they haven't been back and aren't in their groove yet. So Bill, do you have a strong opinion about this?
I think we're in unprecedented times this year. And I think when they were at the 6th episode, we were all very worried last fall how they were going to do. It was right after the election. There were so many things that they needed to cover, and they did great. I think the way that the show runs now, it's very different than it was even 15 or 20 years ago. It's so well-oiled. I'm sure they're not in the building nearly as much as they were even in the aughts. So I think they'll be okay. And there's so much material to cover. As long as we stay away from Morgan Wallen, I think we'll be okay.
Yes. What will be interesting to see is if we get a returning host for episode number 5 of this run. That'll be, I would assume that we would. I'm not reporting anything, but I would assume that, starting off the year with 5 new hosts in a row, that would be, I'd have to go back and I'd have to check when the last time something like that happened. That would be a little bit odd. Okay, so I just want to thank our panel for joining us tonight. Tonight was lively. It was fun to discuss it. I know we all had different opinions on the episode, and that's what makes an episode always great because we get some interesting discussion from it. Liz, let me start with you. Do you have anything to plug? What is happening over at Collider, and where can people reach out to you?
Collider's just we're keeping on. God bless the gift that is Disney Plus, and we're going to go right from WandaVision to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So if you like reading incredibly detailed, nerdy analysis of Marvel shows, you should go to collider.com. And you can find me on Twitter at Lizlet. That's Lizlet. I am occasionally very nerdy about WandaVision and all other things, but I also occasionally will freak out and just watch Magic Mike XXL in the middle of the day. So you can look forward to that.
People are always asking us for show recommendations, so I feel like you're a good person to ask. Is there anything that you can recommend to our audience to check out right now?
In the next 24 hours, I have 2 reviews I need to write. One is for the upcoming HBO documentary series, Alan versus Pharaoh, which is a very haunting, in-depth look at the Woody Allen, the sexual abuse situation. And then there's also Young Rock, which is a really fun look at the Rock's early life. So both of those shows are good, but both are very different.
Yeah, definitely. And The Rock was on Fallon this week talking about that, if anybody wants to look up that interview as well. Bill, thank you for joining us. Where can people reach out to you? And is there anything that you want to plug?
I don't have anything nearly as interesting going on, but you can follow me at BKLove73 for any kind of interesting content.
Okay. Haynes, what about you? Always nice to have you on the show. Where can people reach out to you?
It's always great to be here. Absolutely love it. You can always find me on Twitter at SNL has a cast. I don't have a show to recommend, but Judas and the Black Messiah was fantastic. If people haven't seen that yet, it was really, really good.
Good to know.
And you all should watch Bridgerton. It's fun.
That's true. That's true. Basically, what's happening this week is SNL is getting all the guys to watch Bridgerton because all the girls have already watched it. So we'll see.
You'll love it.
All right, we're going to have our 35 Shades of Grey week this week. Everybody who checked out the podcast and the show this week, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it, as always. I hope you had some fun with us. I know that I did. If you don't want to miss any of the shows we have, please subscribe to our show on any podcatcher, SNL Stats, on YouTube as well, that would be great. And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Sometimes we post some really interesting stats on Twitter. Some go viral, some don't, but it's still fun to check us out to hear anything interesting about Saturday Night Live every single week. So thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a good night and a pleasant week ahead. We will see you next time.
Let's get statistical, so unpredictable here on SNL Stats.